and welcome to the latest class from that 401k University. I'm here with my good friend, James Holland from MillenniuM Investment and Retirement Advisors. I actually had to read that down to get that whole name in there. I still always forget. I know it's MillenniuM. But anyway, James, how are you?
Good, Ari. How are you?
Good. Nobody, I think, in this business knows better than partnering up with other retirement plan providers than you. So how and why, especially in your role with MillenniuM, does partnering up with somebody like your firm make sense for an advisor, or why it makes sense for any retirement plan provider to team up with somebody who's more sophisticated in the retirement plan space like your firm?
Again, thanks for the time, Ari. I appreciate you being here. And, you're the perfect example of that. So for any of the advisors looking, anyone who does not think, that this space is changing to where, and this is probably geared more towards the smaller to mid-sized advisor, the bigger firms have the people and they have the technology and they're coming down market for the business. You trying to be all things to all people is going to cause a lot of problems. A, it's a headache for you. B, it's unsustainable. And, C, it's just not profitable. I mean, you're trying to figure out if you're going to be the investment person, the education person, the contact person. I mean, that's one of the things when we talk to plan sponsors or why they should outsource to fiduciaries in the first place is it's so complex. We come across legal issues all the time. And, could we spend, a ton of money hiring an in-house ERISA attorney or send someone to law school? Yeah. But why not call her and say, hey, by the way, this stuff, this is all you've ever done. Can you help us? And of course, anyone who's listening knows that he's more than happy to do so. And unlike a good many in this space at a very reasonable rate. So, and that's, it carries a lot of credence. And I'll give you a perfect example. I just asked you to do that plan doc review recently for that small group. And the guy's like, I need it. I need something that, says, I'm like, it's right there. Yeah. Rosenbaum law firm, you got it right. He's like, oh, great. No, terrific. And the guy, now while it's not a shield of invincibility, the advisor had no issues. The guy's like, nope, here's a letter from an attorney. And the guy's like, terrific. And then it really is that simple, because they don't want you to know everything. They want you to know that you have contacts everywhere that, that can help with things. And that's the biggest thing we try to explain to the advisors is it's getting, if you really, and I think even Chuck Hammond had something posted on LinkedIn the other day, right? And we talked about it like 10 years ago at the first conference we ever did. Collaboration, that's where it's at. I mean, people want to know. I can tell you a dozen stories of plan sponsors who've left advisors because they think they're the only person who's done. Like, yeah, every time I answered him, he's like, I'll get, the guy he thought he had the answer. It's just too many things to know and too many things to do from a time standpoint. How, if you were fully committed to doing all of the things and running it by yourself, it had to be your only client, that one plan, because of you have documents and disclosures and investment reviews and education. And yeah, I mean, there's a more efficient way of doing it. And, we're going to stick to the 20% of something beats 100% of nothing philosophy, because it's worked for us at this point.
One last question before you get to depart and plug your business. One thing that I always point out, and I always use an example, when I find that I still remember the first time you ever called me, and it was probably based on something that I posted on LinkedIn, and you called me. And I always say that when dealing with other plan providers, it's all about trust. You had to learn to trust me and see if I wasn't some sort of wacko. Because I'm always fascinated when you get a LinkedIn invitation from an advisor, and all of a sudden they don't understand what I do, and all of a sudden they're trying to sell me their, financial services, and as if they don't know that I know, hundreds and hundreds of advisors. So when dealing with other plan providers, especially, even just, for example, in your practice, working with other advisors who may be interested in, utilizing you as a 338 because they're not. what do you say all about developing relationships in this business? What does it
Yeah, and
take?
again, and like you said, the trust obviously is the biggest issue. Just because again, in most cases, when you're having that first conversation, the only thing is LinkedIn or an article you read or something like that. So the first thing we try to tell them is say, listen, this is our business is retirement plans at a plan sponsor level. Got no interest in the participants, no interest in the assets. Our job is to help protect you and that relationship. And while again, that seems fine, they're still gonna, human nature tells us to be. I'm like the most cynical person on the planet, so
No, that would be me.
I'm always gonna be like, okay, wait a second, what's the ulterior motive? And until you test drive it, and find out there isn't one, sadly, because this industry leads to people believing that there is some ulterior motive. It takes a little bit of time, but afterwards, it's always okay. And then we tell them, hey, test drive it. Give us a small plan. Let us show you what we can do, that type of thing. And then when they see the difference in terms of time it's given back to them, credibility with the plan sponsor, that type of thing, then all of a sudden, then, the business starts flowing. And that's again, we understand it's a process, but given the opportunity to say, hey, listen, we're going to stay in our lane. And that's, we're not going to form legal opinions, and we're not going to do participant education, and we're not going to be the record keeper, we're not going to be the TPA, we're not going to be we can bring all those people together because we speak a little bit of all of that language, which I think helps when we're having that discussion. But I mean, you're looking at it now, and margins everywhere are contracting, whether it be advisor fees, administrative fees, fiduciary fees. So in the grand scheme of things, do the math. If you think squeezing a few basis points, for yourself is going to help your business, and that's fine. But if you take the time to step away from that and say, wait a second, if I give up a handful of basis points, I don't have to do the monitoring reports. I don't have to, get ready for the committee meeting. I don't have to do the fee disclosure check, all those other things, then you'll see it's way more profitable to outsource it. And again, it takes a little bit of time, and it gets, because you don't want that fear of losing the business, which I think is more towards the older end of the market. I think we're seeing a lot of the younger advisors that we're working with now are open up much quicker to, hey, yeah, I just, I want to streamline. I get it. I'm going to focus on this. You guys are going to focus on that, and they see the value. I just think with some of the older advisors, unfortunately, the industry was always mine, and I think that's a hard thing to break for some people.
So where can people reach out to you and partner up with you?
Yeah, great.
Again,
we the website is Fix401k, FIX401k.com. James H at Mira Center, MIRACENTR.com is the email address. Phone number is 704-743-3226. You can see us on LinkedIn, on Twitter. It's 401k Answers Now. So reach out anywhere, and always open to a conversation, because that's how partnerships like the one you're seeing right here get started and hopefully develop to the way this one has. And he is far too modest to say anything. For a guy who puts in so much effort for the advisory space, really, if you're an advisor listening, do yourself a favor, call Ari, because there's something he can do for you. Okay, whether it's legal and or connecting you with someone else who can better your practice. The guy spends his whole life doing it. And the success we have had, he has absolutely been a huge part of that, and will continue to be. And that's how you're going to succeed in this business. If you're doing the instant gratification thing, go find yourself a new line of work. If you want to really build a 401k practice, find people like Ari to partner with, because there's going to be a big opportunity, which you're not going to have the answer for. And I assure you he is. So develop the relationship now, because the time is going to come when you're going to need it, and he will be there to pick up the phone. So again, I appreciate you giving us a little time this morning, Ari. And like I said, for the advisors, feel free to reach out. Always open to a conversation to see if there's a fit.
James, thank you as always.
All right, and go Knicks.
And go Mets. Thanks.
And Mets, definitely Mets. Thanks, Ari. Have a good one.